But if you actually want to make an impression, you're going to have to buck up and you're going to have to say, or basically state that they're free. All right, you're making a plan, and then take them out, and then actually follow through on it and make it known that it's on a date. I think too many guys are too timid on the fact that this is a date, and then they allow it to not be a date.
Well, that's the thing right there. It's never a date. It's always hanging out. No, if you're taking time out of your day, you're putting effort into a friend. Unfortunately, it's a date, and no one likes that. That's a touchy term for some reason.
If I don't want to feel like this, if I don't want to feel like this, then tell me why I do the same shit over and over again. It's starting to drive me crazy. Like, just get out and face it. Fix your mess, you made it. Yeah, I did it to myself. Yeah, I did it to myself. Yeah, I did it to myself.
I normally get off work about 7 o'clock, but not tonight. We left about 8:40, 8:35. So.
Okay, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
I'm a sales manager at a car dealership.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's long hours. Long hours. This is going to be too hot to drink. Okay, so when you jumped in on the call, I saw you jump in on the call, and I came in here and I was messing with something, and then I heard something just splatter, and I was like, shit, I forgot to put the cup underneath the Keurig. So I go in there and there's coffee all over my counter. I have to put the cup on it, and then I had to do a whole nother cup and try to do a little damage control and start this thing before it gets super late. It's already 9:20 and we were supposed to do this at 8. Thank you for being patient with me.
No problem. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. So
you what?
I think it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's definitely not a shortage of things to talk about in dating nowadays.
Oh, that list can go on for a while.
Well, Lindsay, that's how you pronounce your name, right?
Yes.
You never know nowadays, so I have to ask. What part of the country are you in? You don't have to tell me city
I'm
or
in
anything.
Texas.
You're in where?
Texas.
Old Texas. Okay. And then if you don't mind sharing your age and then relationship status.
So I am 28 and I am single.
Single and ready to mingle. How long have you been single?
So me and my ex has broke up just about a few months ago. So I've been single ever since like mid-February.
Yeah, so that's very recent. How long were you in the ex? Go ahead.
We didn't have like this long drawn out like in-person relationship, if that makes any sense.
Okay. So you guys weren't together too long.
No, so like I'll give you a little backstory without like going too far into it.
Do it.
So he was deployed for about 6 months in Australia. So during that whole time, we talked, we communicated, and it kind of was established like, hey, we never met, but you're my girlfriend.
Oh. So you never met him?
Like, no.
That's interesting.
Well, it gets better. So during that time period, for that 6 months, we didn't meet. We only knew each other through a phone relationship.
Okay.
So with that, when he came, go ahead.
I don't know if I could do that. I mean, that's definitely an example of 2023 possible relationships. I feel like that's more common. I wouldn't expect that for someone my age or older, but maybe like a 18 or 19-year-old, that's all they know, or 17-year-old is that, the internet. But that kind of surprises me. I'm not going to lie. I guess you met them on Tinder or wherever.
So that's a whole nother separate story by itself.
Okay.
So,
you don't have to go into it if you don't want to.
No, it's fine. I'll finish this part of the story first.
Okay.
Then we'll talk about that part. So we talked for that whole time. Then he's originally from Texas. So after he got out of the Marine Corps, he came to Texas. And we finally met, and what was over a phone and FaceTime, and the person he was just wasn't the person in person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it just, what that relationship was just didn't transfer to in person.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to get to know somebody online. That's why I'm not a huge texter. After I meet somebody, that's a little different, but still, I've done the stages where you try to go through and you try to learn everything about the person from the get-go and through the phone and before, but there's only so much that you can learn, and there's only so much you can develop. And you find yourself when it doesn't work out and you try to do it for the next person, and then that doesn't work out, you try to do it for the next person. You get tired of having the same damn conversations over and over again in the beginning stages of a relationship. That's why we get so exhausted of the talking stages now, in my opinion.
Well, see, the talking stage half the time, this is going to be very controversial, but it's bullshit half the time. Mm-hmm. If you like someone, you're going to make that effort, be like, you know what, I like you. If we can, let's meet up in person. Sometimes a flight ticket's very cheap. Plan it 4 months in advance.
Yeah.
It's a definition of if you want to, you will.
The long distance relationships, man, I just don't know if I could do that. If I had already established a relationship with somebody, then maybe, that'd be a lot more likely. But if I've never met somebody, I just don't know if I could do it. I like the physical touch. I like the emotional connection through the physical touch. So I don't think I could do that. So props to you for at least trying it.
Is that one of your love languages?
I guess.
Physical touch.
What are all the love languages?
So if I understand it right, like there's like 4. Like one is acts of service, words of affirmation, and one's a physical touch. And I can't remember what the 4th one is, but there's like 4 different ones. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know them. I don't know them. Okay. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you have any kids?
No.
Okay. No kids.
So unfortunately, in this generation, I am one of those rare commodities where I've never been married, never been engaged, and I don't have kids.
About like me. I mean, obviously I can't get pregnant, or nowadays you ask some people, you might get an answer that might confuse you, but I'm not getting into that.
Yeah, that's a different topic for a different day.
Exactly. And I don't plan on getting into that, honestly. That's not what I want to talk about on this show. If you don't mind me asking, would you consider yourself straight, bisexual, everything in between?
I'm very much straight.
Okay.
I prefer the company of men. No offense towards women. I just prefer men.
Hey, no, nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging. I'm just taking the temperature, and I'm kind of using this as a not a social experiment. That's not the right word, but I want to take a poll, and I want to help men and women understand each other better, and I want to take answers and take questions, and I want to use data, and I want to help people going forward. So I'm kind of keeping track of some of these answers. A lot of this conversation is just going to be us having a conversation, but I am going to lace in some questions here and there. So what do you find most physically attractive about a man? Is there something in particular that stands out?
I like confidence. I can appreciate confidence. Like if we're at a bar and you just walk up to me and start having an conversation with me, I find that attractive because that's, in this day and age, that just doesn't happen. Men feel intimidated by women and how they're going to react.
So you think
that's how I feel.
You think the guy, okay, how many times a week do you think you get approached in person?
Maybe about once or twice.
Really?
Yeah.
I would like to say I'm shocked, but I've done 2 interviews so far this week. I've just started this week, and I've done 2 interviews, and one had 2 girls, they're best friends, and then another one, they said the same answer, honestly. It was around the same number. But before that, I was expecting a higher number to that question, just because you think, pretty girls are going to get approached. But it's kind of shocking that 1 to 2 times a week.
Well,
is that frustrating for you?
In this day and age, it's not frustrating for me, but I understand why guys don't do it. In this day and age, if you approach a woman, you're going to get 1 or 2 reactions. You're going to get a reaction like, oh, thank you. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go grab a drink. Or, if you can't do anything expensive, there's a dollar menu. Let's go in the parking lot and just talk. Or you're going to get the reaction, you're a fucking creep. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to use foul language. I don't know if that's appropriate,
it's fine.
But
use whatever language you want. It's for me, the rejection isn't like, a lot of guys, are probably scared of rejection, and no one wants to feel rejected, but it's that part that you mentioned that I don't want to made out to be a creep, like in any aspect at all, like at all. Like I go the opposite way to avoid it. So unless I can feel an energy or something between me and somebody, like I'll go up and approach them, which I think you kind of have to do nowadays, not timidly, but in the way you approach, you have to do it very differently than you could have done it 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, you could have been a little more brash maybe about it. And back then all the guys were approaching that same woman. So you had to be different in a way and to stand out, whether that was better or worse, but now just by approaching, you're already standing out. So I just try to be more genuine. And if I do find, that there's some attraction, or I find that there's a little bit of chemistry between the two of us, then you can try to take more of the temperature of what's going on. But that is a huge thing, is like, I don't want to be a creep in any form or fashion. And that is a scary thing, because especially with the internet, fake word travels that fast, but fake word, can travel just as fast. So
exactly. And it just takes one woman to say something, and it cannot even be true. And that guy's completely life is just done. And he couldn't have said nothing or done anything except for, hey, you're attractive. Let me take you out. And that's not fair to the next couple guys.
I will say, though, guys need to be mindful of how and where they approach women, too. Like I saw a video the other day. Someone was reacting to it on YouTube. This woman was talking, it was a Karen. She was talking about how some guy said, "Hello, miss," in a parking lot. And then she cut him off and like started cussing him out, telling him, "Do not move, do not move, do not move." And then he was walking off, getting defensive, like, whoa, 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 whoa. And she was saying there's no reason to approach a woman in the parking lot. I'm not saying I don't know what happened. I don't know what did or didn't happen in that situation. But I do think that in a situation like that, where we know what happens in parking lots and where people do get kidnapped, like, you don't just pop up on somebody. So in sales, if we have a customer, like at the car dealership, we will wave at a car from, 20, 30 yards away, catch their attention. So it's just kind of the same thing. You're not just popping up on the person. They're like, "Oh, where'd you come from?" I'm sure a woman, you're not the first thing you don't want to feel is surprised. Like, you don't want to be like, "Oh, you're right in my space, and now we're doing this." But if I can give you time to recognize that I'm coming your direction, and I can give you time to process it, and then kind of feel me out from here, you don't feel as intimidated. I can smile, I can wave at you, make a stupid joke. Usually it is a corny joke that works best, but and then just try to be genuine from there. That usually works better. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely not. If you can get a woman to, I feel like this is a true thing to this day in this dating world. If you can get a woman to laugh, you got her. You got her attention in that moment right there.
But is the attention enough? Like, with everything else going on, I mean, do you have any words of wisdom for the guys, or is just getting a woman's attention good enough because no one else is doing it except for through this?
I don't think I really understand the question, so I really can't give an
okay. Let's just answer this.
Per
Do you have any more advice for guys wanting to do a cold approach out, wherever it is, gym, grocery store, farmer's market, out at a park, or whatever it is? Do you have any tips for them? Because you already said, and you already said that men who have the confidence to approach you in real life are going to have a substantial advantage if done correctly. Well, what's the correct way in your opinion for you?
For me, it's not going to, I think you made a very good one. Don't approach me in a dark parking lot. That's just not going to work. I don't think it should be done at a gym, because that's a place where, everyone's focused on trying to better themselves. And the last thing you want to do is interrupt that mindset. So don't approach her during a workout. Maybe wait until after.
Okay.
And start a conversation like that. Do it during a time where it's not going to be questionable per se. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Do you anything else that you feel like is missing? 'Cause I'm doing this for both sides here. I'm trying to help men and women.
Just because she might have a whole roster on her phone, but by the fact that you approached in person and you're being old school about it, that's going to catch a lot more attention than what Billy Bob is saying on a text message.
Yeah.
Where he's probably hanging out with he's probably texting a whole roster as well. Let's just be honest.
And it stinks, because when I like somebody, I want to talk to them. It's just the same for you, right? When you like somebody, you want to talk to them. But I don't know what it is about. I think it's just human psychology, but even more so for women. What I have found is the less that I talk to the women, it's just a curiosity factor. The less that I will have conversations with them when they're not with me, the easier it is to make plans with them. If I'm talking to them all the time, the risk of them flaking is so much higher. So I've literally just stopped talking. Like if I want to set up a date with them, I won't say much to them for a couple of days leading up here, a few things here or there. And then I'll just ask them if they're free. And then if they say yes, let's go out. Make the statement.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, and to a point. So as a woman's point of view, like I can only talk about me and my experience. So I like where you're going with it and what your I don't want to say strategy, what your approach is. The only thing is, like, if someone's not texting me, like, I'm not saying like you're blowing up my phone throughout the day, because at the end of the day, we're both adults. We have to do our jobs. We have shit going on between point A and point B. Mm-hmm. So just a little text message saying, hey, how's your day going? Just a few text messages is fine, but still have that when the date comes, there's a whole list of things that could be talked about what happened during that week.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is you're not ghosting the person and then, hey, after a week of no contact, that's not what I'm saying, because you guys will very quickly, you talked about having a roster. You may not want to use it, but you've got the roster that, okay, this guy's clearly moved on. I'll, go talk to the next one. You have to keep them just curious enough and just engaged enough, but be different in the fact that you're not sitting there trying to ask for nudes over the phone. You're not sitting there just trying to play pen pal and text all the damn time. You actually want to take them out. And here's the thing is, I know everybody's going through financial hardships. I know it's a tough economy. I know, the average household salary is, compared to what the cost of living is, sucks right now for everybody. But if you actually want to make an impression, you're going to have to buck up, and you're going to have to say, or basically state that they're free. All right, you're making a plan, and then take them out, and then actually follow through on it and make it make it known that it's on a date. I think too many guys are too timid on the fact that this is a date, and then they allow it to not be a date.
Well, that's the thing right there. It's never a date. It's always hanging out. No, if you're taking time out of your day, you're putting effort into a friend. Unfortunately, it's a date, and no one likes that. That's a touchy term for some reason.
You a Witcher fan?
I am. I'm rewatching the season.
But yeah, I just think that.
Well, from a man's point of view, here's a question from you. From a man's point of view, what is the biggest difference between calling something a date between a hangout?
It's just a date is a date. Going out on the town to me, but I don't have to go on a date to connect in it and enjoy spending time with someone that I like. But I think what you're referring to is, what are you doing at midnight? Like are you up text? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like the hangout?
No. So like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this in this new dating age. Maybe it's just like, maybe what a female's perspective is, but I get text messages like when I meet new people, like, hey, you want to hang out? Then there's messages like, hey, you want to go on a date? Where I'm automatically going to be like, okay, you know what? This person's asking me on a date. That's more genuine than saying, hey, let's hang out. Because if you're hanging out, I'm thinking like, that's a friendship right there. Like, we're going to sit on the couch. We're going to watch, we're going to binge watch Supernatural.
You're going to Netflix
and eat popcorn and talk shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Compared to a date, like, you know what? You're taking time out. We're going to go to the dollar menu at McDonald's. We're going to go to the park and we're going to watch the ducks. I don't know.
I think that, you can't say in absolutes, but I think when guys use the word hang out and you guys haven't been on a date and there's no established dating between the two of you yet, it's like a first time meetup. I think guys are scared of the rejection. So they use the word hang out. So that way they can try to, again, take the temperature of where it's at, going into the situation. But me, if I'm going to get told no or fuck off, I'm going to get told no or to fuck off. I'm not going to waste my time and go spend money on you if I know you don't even, think I'm attractive or don't even like me or want to hang out in that way. So for me, that's why I'm saying is I will, talk to them a little bit. And not that I do this a lot, but when I do want to go out with somebody and I'm actually interested in somebody, I won't talk to them a whole lot. I'll keep the ember burning, and then whenever I'm ready to make a plan, I will typically ask when their free days are, and if they answer with their free day, all right, great. I get off work at this time, so because I am very busy, so I'll say, all right, let's go. Excuse me. Let's go out at 8:00. I'll pick you up at 8. I'll make a statement. I won't even ask, because if she's going to say no, she can either say no to the statement or she can say no to the question. But just like in sales, it's more like the customer is more likely to say yes to a statement than a question. Because if you give them a question, it's 50-50. If you lead them with a statement, they're more likely to be like, all right, cool. And especially with women, again, this is not 100% true all the time, but women typically like to feel led by a confident man. So if you're just able to say, hey, let's go out, let's go watch a movie, or let's go, I wouldn't recommend a movie for a first date, but let's go to dinner. What kind of food do you like? You like Mexican food? Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go.
There you go. So
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. So I'll say, hey, you're free. All right, let's go. Let's go to dinner. And then she'll say yes. And then, typically they'll ask, well, what are we going to eat? Because you're asking me. So what a lot of guys will do, I don't care. And they'll just ask, do you want to go to this place, this place, this place? And the one will say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. So what I do is, if whatever I'm feeling like, I'll say, you like Italian? You do? Great. Cool. All right, I'll pick you up.
It's also that
8:30.
dominance that women like too. You're also establishing the dominance, and people are going to hate this word, but that tradition that a man is being a leader and being like, hey, this is what we're going to do. With women might say like, oh, I don't respond to that. No, we will. We respond to a man that takes charge and will be a leader. It's
just like, it depends on who it is, like telling you these things though, because it's just like a football coach do you play any sports?
Yes. It's all about execution too.
Yeah, what kind of sports did you play?
So I did soccer for about like 12 years. Then when I got into high school, I was in the marching band.
Okay. We'll just use soccer for an example, because I don't know anything about band. So did you ever have a head coach that you really liked and followed?
Well, so this is going to sound really weird, but my dad was my coach all through those years.
Was he a good coach?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. So your dad, and then let's say you have an assistant coach or a third coach on the team that doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. You know he doesn't know what he's talking about. You can see that he's doesn't know anything about soccer, and he's sitting there trying to boss you around and tell you things or what to do, and you're like, dude, I know more soccer than you. Shut up. I'm 11. All right.
Well, also so if you've been in the dating game quite a bit, I feel like especially when you get older, like 22-year-old me would not recognize that than what 28-year-old me would now.
Right.
Because
you have a bullshit meter.
Exactly. So with it now, I would call bullshit. Like you're not being what that tradition. For me personally, I would love to have like to a point what a traditional relationship would look like. To a point. Let me just clarify that.
Yeah.
So by a man, so with the whole confidence things and him being kind of stern, like, hey, we're gonna do this, and this is where we're gonna go.
Yeah. I
will have a better reaction because you took the time to plan out what we're doing.
But it has to come from a man you respect, though. Just like I was saying, you're much more willing to listen to your dad as a soccer coach because you know he knows what he's talking about, and you respect him as a coach. So if you're dating a man that that doesn't have a work ethic, doesn't have any goals or dreams, doesn't do what he tells you he's going to do. He doesn't clean up after himself. He's a slob, and he's not a good partner to be with. And then he tries to be dominant and be the alpha male. You're going to be like, sit the hell down. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
You're not going to want to take.
But that also just kind of falls to like, we as women, what are we going to deal with? Mm-hmm. Because when, young love, who we thought we would love at 22 and 21 is not what we're loving now. Because in all fairness, who has their most of their shit together at 21 or 22?
Hardly anybody.
That's a party stage. Yeah, but that's a party stage. We're going to go out. We're going to fucking destroy our apartment. We're not going to keep shit clean. At some point, something's going to click. And it's like, you know what? I need to do something better. Because also, too, dating's not like a book.
No.
There's no right playbook for it. It's all about the dynamic you have with this person you like. Mm-hmm. And that's just what it comes down to. So like, even though you've been with this coach for so long, just because it works for one team, it's not going to work for another. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, obviously not every couple's the same, and not every couple can, succeed the same way. I think we're making the same point.
I think so too. We're just both saying in a different ways.
Which is great, which is even better. From a woman's point of view, you said you wanted something more traditional. Why do you want something more traditional versus something what you would call a modern and equal relationship? Which, as humans, we're all equal. That's obvious. But why do you want a more traditional, quote unquote, relationship? What's more attractive about that to you?
Well, because, In real life, I'm a very dominant person. I want to be with a partner too that, is just as dominant. I want to know the fact that when I go to lay my head down at night, I'm laying next to a man that I know if someone comes through our front door, he's not going to turn and run the other way. Where I feel like maybe in a modern day, there's not going to be that security, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I like the fact of I'm in charge of the house and, I go to work every day, but you coming home, you're the head of the household. If, something goes wrong, you kind of like, hey, that's not okay to do with the kids. Kind of have that, like, I don't want to say a rule with an iron fist, but just the idea of a more traditional thing is just more appealing to me.
I mean, you're not saying. Go ahead.
Because if you look at it, a traditional marriage, it's still an equal partnership. Because being a stay-at-home mother or a stay-at-home wife, or all that, is just as hard as going to work every day. Because it's completely different in two different aspects. But, the house doesn't clean itself. The dinner's not going to make itself. The kids are not going to be picked up from school on themselves. The dinner's not going to be made by itself. The kids are not going to get up on time.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that, doing any of that is not just as hard, and that's definitely not my place to speak on it, because I don't have any kids, nor am I a woman or a mom or even a dad that I know of. That was a bad joke.
But also too, no, I get it. But also too, what I mean by is like, with this people wanting this modern partnership, it's not bad, but it's losing that, like, we need to find that even balance where that traditional is there, but also that modern, like, it's okay for women to leave the house, go work, still do that motherly things, but that man still very active in his kids' lives, and they know, like, they do bad. Growing up, we had that, like, oh, wait until your father gets home.
Mm-hmm.
Have that. I don't want to have that fear, but that, like, okay, dad's home. Oh shit.
It's a respect.
Exactly.
It's not a fear. It's a respect. I mean, yeah, as a kid, you might be scared, but it comes from a place of respect, and more so, you didn't want to hurt your dad. You don't want your dad or your parent to look at you differently and then punish you. The swats, that's one thing, but you want to respect a man is what I'm understanding. Like, you want someone that you feel is competent enough that you can not give up control of your life, but relinquish some of the, okay, I'm going to take some of the stress off my back, let you take care of, a few extra of those things. And that way I can bring my feminine energy and my, and my peace to you, and let you, not even just lead, but guide and, take a half step forward.
Wherein, I feel like, especially in a marriage, that 50-50 bullshit's not there. That's unexistent. You're either going to be fully in, like 100% in, or you're not. So if you don't off the bat respect the man you're with, your marriage is not going to work from that point on. Where you made a good point where, that's one thing that's lax in relationships too. If you don't respect your partner right off the bat, like, I'm not fully saying like total submission like you would in a marriage. I know that's a naughty word to say, but it's true to a point. If you don't respect your partner right off the bat, your relationship's not going to last. The communication's not going to be how it is. Like, let's be grown folk. Let's sit down. Let's actually listen and not talk at each other.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to shelf that for a second. I'm going to keep touching on. I'll wrap back around to that, to the talking over each other. respect or needing to respect your partner, that goes both ways, obviously. Let me sit forward. Maybe my brain will work better. So as far as wanting to respect or needing to respect both partners, the men and women need to do it. But it's and that should go for both partners. But women, it's because you want to be a little submissive. If you don't respect the man that you're with, it's like you said, it's never going to work, and you're never going to love and even lust after, like, especially lust. Like, if you don't respect that man and you don't respect his authority out in the real world, then you're not going to be turned on and attracted by that man. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. Like, this is going to sound really corny, but I think it's a perfect example of what a woman really wants. So do you watch Yellowstone by chance?
I don't.
Okay, then you might not understand it. So there's this one couple. It's Rip and Beth. And long story short, like, he lets her be who she is, but he will never correct her in front of a crowd. It's always behind closed doors. So okay. I think that's one thing to do as well in relationships. If your partner's doing something you don't like, or you feel is disrespectful to your relationship, pull that person aside and you tell them, do not correct their actions in front of other people.
I think never might be extreme, but I get your point. I definitely get your point because then there's no point in both of you being humiliated in front of everybody.
Exactly. And plus a lot of things are just too public. Not everything needs to be for the whole fucking village. Exactly. That's why I said, like, if your partner does something that you feel is disrespectful to you and your relationship, you correct it behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. It's not your business. It's not my business. That's between you two, why that person feels disrespected or feels like you were out of line.
I think that's something that we lack in just today's society in general, not just relationships. Is everyone wants to talk about it, talk shit online. Everybody wants to settle beef online. People online, people can say stuff online and out in front of people without the actual real world repercussions of 20, 30 years ago. If you were just to look at somebody wrong 30 years ago and then not address it, you might be in a fight, let alone, insult somebody or, say half of the heinous stuff that gets said online, and then let alone go into a relationship with somebody and then go, I keep people just because I like to I call it my shameless effect. Have you ever watched Shameless?
I love that show.
I liked Shameless because it lets me live my white trash dream through a show. I'll keep people on my Facebook that I don't even really know that are from around the same area as me because they're entertaining. Because like I have women on there that are in a relationship with their fiance or their boyfriend or husband or whatever, and all of a sudden they're single on their Facebook. And then a month later they're back in a relationship, and then they're talking smack, and then they're right back, adding or posting what I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like it's exhausting, and I can't understand how they don't see, or they're not self-aware enough to see that. So like you said, everything's way too damn public. People will post their every thought. And that is crazy to me, especially when you should be handling things in a relationship in the privacy of your own home.
One thing, too, to remember, when you're in a relationship with someone, that should not be your war zone. That should be your safe space. Mm-hmm. So, if there is something hard to talk about, for instance, the lack of intimacy sometimes in a relationship, that's touchy to talk about. That's hard to talk about. Mm-hmm. You should feel confident and safe enough in your relationship to have those hard conversations. Don't go to the internet and ask, how do I approach this conversation?
I think that's one thing, like you said earlier, it comes down to women and what you will handle, what you will take in a relationship as far as that emotional part, the war zone. That's That's both. That's both sides, honestly, because I was in a relationship, and the last relationship I've been in was my college relationship, and we were together for a year and a half. I know that's not super long. But that's the longest relationship I've been in. I've been single since then, just working on myself. But I've dated since then, but I haven't been in an actual relationship, what I would call a relationship. And in that relation, I learned so much about what I don't want in a partner and what I don't want in a relationship. And I didn't actually realize it, some of it, but this next point, what you were talking about earlier, is talking over people. So we had broken up, and it was like we've been apart for like 6 months at this point. This was like 5 years ago, but we had apart for like 6 months at this point. And then, I'm still very attracted to her. We're still like, only an hour away from each other. So, you start thinking, I haven't been in a relationship with anybody. You start, wanting to call them up, you start talking to them. We started chatting a little bit back in messaging. And then I called her, and then we started talking. We were on the phone for an hour. And then I was like, man, that first hour, I was like, man, this is in my head, I'm like, why did we break up? Like this, we had this chemistry, we're laughing. And then boom, as soon as I thought that, we were on the phone for about another 45 minutes to an hour. That entire second half of that call, I started realizing where I had grown and she hadn't. So, and when we used to talk, we used to both do it. So I'm not taking my part. I'm not shelving my part in this. I'm not discarding it. We both used to do this where, like, if you and I were talking and we were like, even if we weren't arguing, we were having a conversation, just a regular conversation. Let's say you're her, I'm me. I'd be talking right now, and then she would not listen. She would just be waiting to make her point or say what she wanted to say. And then she would be talking, and then I would be waiting to say what I wanted to say or make my point or to change the conversation to something that I want. So we never had conversations. We just talked at each other. And then I had been working on myself and getting into sales and, getting into some of the professional world and realizing, there are better things for me. And then, so that 6 months, I had grown quite a bit. Not near to the degree I am now, obviously, but, I was able to recognize that. I was like, oh yeah, this is one of the reasons. And then I just started remembering everything else. But, that big one is like, we never had conversations. Our relationship.
So I want to piggyback off two things you just said. I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. I was rambling.
So no, you're fine. So the one, too, when you have a conversation with someone, it is I feel like I'm going to get a hate for this one, but from you, but you never speak with emotion. It's never, ever good to speak out of emotion or anger. If you're upset about something, as much as people will hate it, be like, I need 30 minutes. I want to make sure I come into this conversation level-headed and able to listen before a resolution comes. Because that's one thing too, we don't realize when we're angry, we want to sit there and figure it out. But that's where the problem lies. We're speaking with we're speaking with emotion and not having that. Okay, what I call the ABCs, why, acknowledging why you're upset, the bullet points of why. Then what is the conclusion of that? Then to piggyback off the second thing you said, because I found it really interesting when you said this. So, how you said your last relationship was everything like you didn't, like something that you would not want in the future?
Yep.
So we all experiences 3 loves in our life most of the time. One's gonna be your young love, like the first person you ever fell in love with. So it'll be like some kind of high school, middle school relationship per se. Then our second one's always gonna be the one that, like, you know what, this is not what I want in the future. This is what I'm gonna change about the next one. This is what I'm willing to do and not do. Then the third one will always be like, you know what, it's quote unquote the one. This person's everything that you want, and you all agree on how the relationship works, and you just connect.
I feel like that principle is true, but I feel like a lot of people get stuck on that second one over and over and over again. But they never
It's hard.
But they never learn from it. And I think people mistake learning from, toxic people or, learning from toxic relationships and your own toxic behavior too. That's an important part. A lot of people don't recognize it, don't take accountability in their own toxic behavior. I know it's hard to do, but you have issues in that relationship too. You may be doing things that make them act the way that you hate. So you have to do some deep diving on that. But I think especially because people have so many damn options. If you're a halfway attractive woman, you have thousands of matches on Tinder. You have hundreds of messages in your DMs. And if you're a good looking guy, then you've got a couple hundred matches on Tinder or whatever. I mean, so if you're just an average or above average person, you have some options if you're trying. But the problem is when you have too many options, then you start not paying attention to those details that you actually need to learn from and stop treating people as people. And then you go through these cycles of going through bad relationships because you choose to never learn and you're just repeating the same mistakes.
And that's not even through like relationships too. In this day and age, it could just be the talking stage. Exactly. Cause I'll be on, like, we're about to get super personal here. So, yeah. So personal for a while, we'll deep dive into it. This is actually a really good conversation. I'm really enjoying it. So a few years back, so I worked on cruise ships for a long time. Like that was where my passion lied. I loved it. So one year I was in Alaska and I was on, I don't know if you remember, but Kick.
Yeah.
Good old Kick.
These 18-year-olds are watching this. 17-year-olds are going to be like, what the hell is Kick?
They're not going to have any idea, but it'll be great. So
sketchy shit happened.
That's how you.
It was Snapchat before Snapchat, but yeah, go ahead.
The original OG of not wanting shit to find out. But anyway. So like there used to be group chats that you can join, right? Mm-hmm. So long story short, I managed to hop on one just because we were in port. I was bored. And this guy messaged me. Long story short, we talked for 5 years. Off and on. But with that came a lot of drama, not only on his end, but my own heart saying like, you know what? He's going to change. He's going to do this. And my own stupidity of just falling for the same bullshit, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So the first big red flag that I should have saw was, so I think it's always a decent question to ask, like, what is your marital status? Like, are you married? And if they say, oh, no, I'm divorced. Okay, are you actually divorced or are you separated? Because to me, those are two big things.
Huge.
Exactly. So he tells me he's divorced. Okay, cool. So we talk the whole time I'm still in Alaska. I'm on this cruise ship anytime I'm in port. Long story short, once I get off and we continue talking, it comes out that he's still married.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great time. Then a few months later, he comes back up. He's like, hey, we need to talk. I was like, we don't need to talk about nothing. And he tells me, I'm divorced now. I really need someone to talk to. It's like, okay, what's up? What's going on? So it continues on. Then he gets into a relationship after blowing a bunch of happy horse shit at my ass saying like, oh, you know what? I want to be with you. If there wasn't for the distance, we would be together. Right? So again, I blocked him, didn't talk to him, but he managed to text me. And we talked again. And he's still with this fiance, his new fiance. So it's like, I know. Then it gets to the point where him and his fiance break up and we finally meet in person. So after 5 years, we finally meet in person. And long story short, he was still talking to someone when I went to go meet him. And the way I found out was through Facebook when he was telling me like, hey, I'm not with anyone. You're the only one I'm talking to. So with that was my own stupidity. I should have seen the first two red flags, and there was a big lie in between that too. I don't want to get into that because
that's personal business.
That it's really personal, and it I will say this, it really fucked with my head. That whole situation, it just really fucked with my head. So that's where mine is like, this is what I do not want to see in a person. This is what I will not tolerate and I will not love. I'm not going to do this to myself anymore.
I mean, those situations are important, but it's more important that you learn from them. Because if you don't learn from them, then it happened for nothing.
Exactly. And when I tell you no one fucking broke me as much as that man did, I hope his pillow's cold every night.
Damn. That's cruel.
Like, I don't wish death upon him. I don't wish anything negative, but that.
Hey, that's okay. Hey, on a lighter note, has anyone ever told you sound like Kat Dennings?
I don't know who that is.
You ever watch Two Broke Girls?
Oh, okay, yes, I know which one you're talking about.
The dark hair
now.
one? You kind of sound like her.
I'll take that as a compliment.
With the glasses, you kind of look like her, but, you know. Anyways.
I just want to see, man.
Huh?
I just want to see. I pay good money to see.
Are you blind?
No, I can see just fine, but with like phone stuff and computers, I do put them on. So more up close stuff I need them for.
Okay. Let's see.
And driving.
What do you think your best qualities are as a person?
So this is going to sound really sad. I can't answer that.
Why?
Because I don't feel like honestly, I don't feel like I bring much to the table dating wise anymore.
That's very interesting.
I think just because of, I've been on a few dates and I've tried to date, but it always just comes back to the fact, like, there's always someone better and they will always choose that one and over me.
So you don't feel, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you don't feel unique. You feel like you're lumped in with a bunch of other, I'm not going to say hookup culture because I can't speak to, what you do, but you feel like you're a part of that web and you don't want to be cycled over and over again like that and just be a part of the next one.
Exactly.
Okay. So it has less to do with how you feel about yourself as you just don't feel like it's worth putting in the effort with the qualities that you might be able to shine with because every time you do, it's a moot point anyways.
Exactly. And by the time, when someone does find something unique about me, they bring so much, meaning at some point I date to marry someone. I'm dating because I see qualities in you that I see that I would like as a husband and a potential father to my kids. So by the time someone does come and they see something, it's like they've already been married. They already have kids and they don't want that. And I'm not willing to put myself in a position where, that's something I really want. And I'm not willing to give up on any one of those.
Yes. I don't think you should. Now, me personally, am I a huge fan of the Constitution or the legal agreement of marriage? No. That's something that I'm seriously debating myself, but the relationship and the deep love between two people, that's something that I very much want, like a lifelong partnership. I'm not saying I'll never get married, but for me, and that's what I was saying is a completely different story. But I don't think you should compromise, in that area if that's something that's extremely important to you. And just because a lot of guys are insecure and just want to find a new challenge, as I say, because I've recognized it. I recognize it because I've done it myself. Is whenever you go for a new body, as you want to put it, right? I know it's kind of shitty to sound that way, but it's a challenge.
It's true.
And I said this last night when I was interviewing, and I was explaining this. when people in general, but when guys don't have a challenge, when guys don't go through difficult things, a challenge to them is how many women can I sleep with? That becomes a challenge because they go to work and it's a job that doesn't challenge them. It's a job that they don't like. They don't have any extracurricular activities. They're not in the community. They're not helping people through real situations. They're not facing any real adversity. They're not having to provide for their family. They're just stuck in this comfortability that, you know, it's deadening inside. And so what's the hardest thing that I have to try to do is how many women can I pick up? And it's sad. I know because I've done it. But that is, I'm telling you, that's one of the big reasons. It's not just because we're always horny or we're all, you know, when we're not releasing that competitiveness or that not even just competitiveness, but that feeling that you need to overcome something. It's because we're all lazy. As a generation, we're all lazy and don't have to overcome difficult circumstances. So I definitely feel for you, for women in that aspect. And honestly, I went through my little phase where I was mad at women because I felt like I wasn't getting success with women because I was focusing so much on trying to get women and I wasn't having success because I had nothing to my name. I had no confidence other than, you know, maybe that I was an athlete or, you know, a halfway good looking guy at the time. I had nothing to be proud of. So I was taking my pissed off and pent up aggression and anger out on women. And I think a lot of women do that to men as well. When you can work on yourself and then you're just more naturally going to find somebody that or attract somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I know I said a lot.
No, I agree with all that. That's why I'm just like kind of sitting here. It's like, I don't have anything to piggyback off that because it's true.
I think a lot of women don't have that perspective though, or aren't told that I think, and again, I can't speak for every guy, but I think I speak for a lot of guys. I think it's just the psychology of it is that's something that we have to overcome is getting good at the game. And
also,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. So what I was going to say is I finally had my train of thought that I was thinking about. So with that, when guys do see a challenge in a woman, we get told like, we're too much to handle. So at that point, I don't take that as an insult. I take that as you are openly admitting to me, you don't have your shit together and you see me as a challenge that you do not want to deal with. You see me as someone trying to push you to better yourself and you're not willing to do that.
I mostly agree with that. So I think most men don't know how to take any sort of constructive criticism or any criticism, but
whatsoever.
Even constructive criticism, because like you said, they haven't figured out who they want to be. So they are not driven enough to be okay with themselves and understand that, you know, there are people that want to push them and there are people that are also want to do great things. And then when people point out that they're not doing what they're supposed to, it makes them insecure. Now, I think some women can come across like you see it a lot on TikTok and Instagram and this new wave of feminism and, you know, women, you know, a man has to handle me. I need a man that can handle me. Like, when you come across like that, I don't want to have to handle a woman. I want somebody who can bring peace to my life and we can grow together. Like you said, I'm not going to be intimidated by a woman who's pushing me, who wants to do great things in her life and is going to push me to do great things. But I'm not going to have to handle a woman, if that makes sense. I mean, course correct every now and then. Like if you said, if you do something that I feel is out of line, we'll talk about it. I'll address it. But I'm not going to do that over and over and over again because that's not worth my energy. So
no, a mature relationship should be you say it once and that's it. It goes back to that thing. I feel like it's a respect thing. Like, you know, if we're dating and I'd say, hey, you know, I don't feel too comfortable. You know, you were talking to that girl and your hands, you got a little touchy.
Yeah.
That's something like I should tell you once, and that should just be a thought in your back of your mind. If it has to be reconsidered, talked about again and again and again, then that's an issue on its own.
Fool me once, shame on me, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, and then by the third time, we're all idiots. You know.
Exactly.
So to switch lanes a little bit, are you a partier? No, clubber, no.
Like, okay, let me say it this way. Do once in a great blue moon, do
Okay.
I like going out with my girls and having a couple beers? Yeah. Or if I'm out of town, do I want to go out and have a couple drinks and explore what the nightlife is? Yes. Is that an every weekend kind of thing?
Okay, again.
I work most weekends. I have to get up and go to work. I'm a prima donna. I like having my sleep. I like having my routine as well.
Me too. Especially when you work a lot, you have to prioritize your time. Otherwise, everything gets thrown out of whack.
Exactly. So, does it sound fun going out and dancing on a Saturday? Sure. Do I rather get 8 hours of sleep than go to work the next morning and have a paycheck so I can have a roof, a car, and food? Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds more
adulting,
appealing
right?
to me.
The privilege of adulting.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
I'm just a hypothetical. Let's say that you were in a relationship and, you know, you had made it a habit. Like, let's say, because you're single now, right? Let's say you get into a habit of going out with your friends and you start to enjoy going out and dancing at a nightclub. No, I'm not talking about going out and just dancing with your friends. I'm talking about going out and then there's a bunch of different guys there always wanting to come up, buy you drinks, dance with you. And then you start dating somebody and you're, 3 months in and he says, I'm not comfortable with you going there without me and going out to the club. Going and having dinner with your friends is one thing, but going to the club at midnight when 11 o'clock midnight, when nothing good can come up, we'll call it the stockyards. Nothing good
Only
can
two
come
things
of it.
are open at midnight. The hospital, and I think we know the other one, but we'll try to keep it appropriate as possible.
Well, there you go. Right. So obviously, I take it that you would respect that more, because I watch a lot of things. Like, I don't know if you watch any of the quote unquote dating shows on YouTube now, some of the podcasts. Well, a lot of the women they bring on, again, because they bring them from like urban areas like Miami, New York, stuff like that, LA. So they have these very feminine, powerful, or ideological, women who, again, a man has to handle me. And they're very combative about that idea that if your boyfriend or your fiance or your husband, whoever says, I don't feel comfortable with you going out there and going and dancing at midnight and, getting your drinks bought by, a bunch of different men who are trying to sleep with you, that they have an issue with that. So, I mean, I think it's just more of a difference of where you live too.
Well, also too with that, like, I don't mean, this is going to sound bad, but if you look at those women like on TV, the men are not as, I don't want to say a pushover, but I don't think they stand their ground a lot with them, because the women are a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
Per se.
I agree.
If you respect your relationship and you respect your man, I'm not going to go out every weekend. That's just not going to happen. If he wanted to come, then that's a different story. But I mean, it's all about a respect thing. What I say is, if you want to do it in front of me, you shouldn't be doing it behind me. Right.
Exactly. So, what we were just talking about, like the men, you mentioned it, the men who get pushed over by those type of women. And my thought on it is, you have to be able to walk away. It's just like a negotiation, anything. If that person knows that you're not going anywhere, no matter how they act, they're going to try to get away with as much as possible. If they're that type of person, which a lot of people nowadays are that kind of person because we live in a selfish society, unfortunately. Now, you can be selfish to a degree, and that's okay because everyone has to look out for their own self-interest. That's completely understandable. But when you're not willing and able to walk away from the situation and they know that, they're going to push you over. And that's why, like, you have to don't be a dick as a guy, but setting boundaries is very important. And I guarantee you, if we were dating and I set boundaries I don't even like the word enforced, but I showed you that I was serious about those boundaries and that some things were going to be done this way. I'm willing to compromise on this, but I'm not willing to compromise on this. I guarantee you're going to look at me and be much more attracted to me than if you ask my opinion on something. Oh, I don't know. Or if you go out and do something and you're looking back at me like, what are you going to do? And then I cower. You're going to look at me and be much more attracted to me long-term and respect me more long-term because I communicated those boundaries and I was serious about them. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely. That's straight on.
And you're not going to test it more than likely, or test it more than once at least.
No, because too, that also shows, like, it just goes back to, in a relationship, I do believe a man is supposed to lead to a point. And that just shows that your clear leadership skills, if you, by saying those boundaries. Because it's not like, I wouldn't say it's rules, but it's just, you fuck with these. This is, the repercussions are,
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
But and it's not, like we said, it's not in a fearful way. It shouldn't be established in that kind of way at all. Because I don't condone, violence, and especially domestic violence. But it's a respect thing. It's, this person does not need me. So, but I want to be in this person's life, so I will lose them if I don't. This person has other options. They're not exploring them. They're not making me feel bad about, or they're not holding that over my head that they have other options, but I know it's there. And that's why women like to date up. I forgot the word, hypergamy. Women like to date up. It's because they want somebody that has other options, but they want that person to choose them. They want the prince to choose them.
Who, at the end of the day, as a man or a woman, who doesn't want to be chosen by someone they want?
Exactly. I mean, guys want the hottest, sweetest, nicest girl in the world. It's the same thing. But
they also want some of these women, like, okay, for instance, being what I wanted at 22 is not the same as 28. So some of these girls just never grew out of that party phase. So what some of these guys want to do is take them out of that when they're clearly not ready and put them to wifey duties. That's just not going to happen. It's going to end bad. Where, you need to find someone who's ready for that and willing to commit to doing that for a long-term success.
So my personal take on that is, you can get somebody out of their hoe phase, but you can't
People
force
have
them.
To be ready to do it.
You can't force them out of it. It's the fear of missing out. So let's say, again, I'm going to use you as an example because we're talking. Again, I don't know what you do in your personal life, or I'm not judging anybody, right? So let's say that I like you as a person. I don't agree with all the choices you make. We have great chemistry. I think you're a nice person, but you're out kind of in the streets a little more than I would like. And I would like to start a relationship with you, but I can't get you to serious. I know it's fun.
I'm sorry. I know this.
I can't get you. I can't kind of lock you down like I would like. Well, if we're kind of running in the same circles, I know you. Now, if you don't really know the person, then it's not really going to have any effect. But let's say I know you, I bump into you every now and then. The best thing that I can do for that is go build myself as a badass. Because if I turn myself into somebody who's so formidable that that men want to be me and women want to be with me. I know that's a cliche way to say it, but if I go and I, become successful at my company, if I go get into fantastic shape, if I have this confidence about me and I treat people great and people want to be around me and I develop those social skills, and every time you see me, people like me more and more, and, I am in better shape. I look better. I treat people better. I feel more confident about myself. And then, I buy a nice house. Well, I'm not saying you have to have those material things. I'm just using examples. You're gonna look at me over that course of 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, and you're gonna start thinking, what the hell am I doing? This person was there for me, 8 months ago, and then I'm out here hoeing around, or just not even hoeing out, but I'm not being serious, and I kind of like him, but I didn't take him serious. But if I don't figure something out, that opportunity might be gone forever. So as a guy, the best thing that you can do is focus on yourself, and then that's going to magnetize women towards you. But don't do it for women. Do it for yourself. Be successful, be happy, and be graceful for yourself. And that's for women too. Find the peace within yourself. Do things for yourself, and you'll attract that partner.
So let me ask you this: in that situation, your partner's in the streets doing the deed. Why would you want that? If she doesn't have her life together, don't you think success kind of attracts success to a point?
Yes, but also, I'm not saying that she was out there taking the whole university football team. I'm just saying maybe you couldn't get her to commit to you. And again, yeah, I'm not saying that you should go for the night walker.
No, I get it, but
yeah.
So my only thing on that is wouldn't you want someone who's either at that level, not at that level, or a little above?
But you're never gonna find somebody who's exactly at that level. I think you can definitely help people grow, but you can't try to do it to your detriment. So if they're gonna be there for the ride, fantastic. If you can help them a little bit and you can hold their hand on the ride, that's fantastic. But you can't keep going backwards to grab them and try to pull them forward. Is my point.
Wouldn't you kind of feel like that would be the case though?
It's different for every situation. I mean, there's extremes where you probably just need to hang it up and definitely move on. But if she's just, again, if she's the girl next door and, it's the fairy tale, but she's just not quite committing to you and you feel like that's the love of your life, then, figure out yourself and then hopefully she comes to you. But if not, then that's her loss. I'm not saying that wait around for her. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, to a point.
Okay.
Because
and
then
same thing
the
for the women too. Don't wait around, but better
then
yourself.
I also believe too, I also believe there's a lot more to a situation like that. There's always someone that's been there since day one that always gets overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's the main person I think someone should always want to be with. Because in this day and age, we always want to go to the one that's, the partier, the very good looking one.
The biker with six-pack abs, the Instagram model or...
Exactly, where I guaranteed you there was a person behind them that's been there since day one where they had nothing that always gets overlooked. Where I think at the end of the day, if that, your little friend's dancing in the street with the university football team, you need to invest more time in that one. Because that person's your ride or die.
I think that happens more for women than it does for men. I don't think men, again, you can't speak in absolutes, but I don't think men have as many women that are just in their corner that the men don't notice.
I promise you there is. They're going to be the most average. I hate to say this because I do believe that, we're all beauty in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
They are the most average looking people you can ever meet. They have maybe a couple hundred followers on Facebook and Instagram. they really don't do their hair up. They're not the most drop dead gorgeous ones in the room, but they bring a lot more to the table because they were with you since day one than what that Instagram model
But
sleeping
also,
with the whole football team.
Does that person also has to make it known how they feel too, but because that's a scary thing too, because if they're only used to, and that's the bad part about the friend zone, is you're so afraid to lose that friendship by putting yourself out there and getting rejected, making it weird. But I think
it's also too, like, this part, like you said, a total fucking Instagram model, that person who is like, and all in our heads of what this person looks like, they're average. There's no way in hell you would think like, okay, this person's going to look at me. They're not even going to see me. It's kind of like one of those, I hate to be cliche and say this, but one of those like high school love stories per se. Like, you're talking to the jock and he doesn't see you, but because he's with the fucking cheerleader, I don't know.
Yeah.
That situation happens a lot more than what we think. And that I guaranteed you that was the person they're probably going to end up needing to be with. And they don't figure that out until after A, B, C, and D was in, that happened.
I think that social media has been so bad in many, many ways, but for expectations of, and trust me, I'm the last guy to, promote. Yeah. Okay. Let me phrase this correctly. I promote body positivity, but I also promote bettering your damn self. Like, you can be okay, or you can, love who you are, but want to be better. Like, I'm happy with who I am, but I still want to lose another 40 pounds for my health and for many things, for looks. I've never seen abs on my body. I want to see them. But that doesn't mean that I don't love who I am, but I'm not going to force people to act like I'm Brad Pitt. I'm not going to force people to act like I'm Michael B. Jordan. Like, I'm a good looking guy, but I'm not, The Rock, or, you have to be realistic and want to reach your potential, but not make people feel bad because they're not going along with what your body positivity should be. And I kind of forgot where I was going with that. Instagram has been so bad, especially for expectations. Of men too, for the Instagram models and the fitness models for men, but mainly for women, because women feel like women have always, since they've come out with it, felt like they needed to wear makeup or have been forced to wear makeup. And then whenever it's not forced, then they feel like they have to look better. When
I feel like as a woman, there's a higher beauty standard.
Yes.
That we have to cater to. I hate to say that, but it's true that we have to cater to.
You guys have a higher beauty standard.
Does.
Now, I think a lot of it now is promoted more by women than, again, not absolutes, but I think a lot of it's promoted more by women and pushed more by women's expectations than men. Just me personally, I am more attracted to a more natural, beautiful look than the Instagram. I'm not attracted to the Instagram model. Like, physically, is it somewhat attractive? Do I think Kim Kardashian's attractive in a vacuum? Sure. Is it what I would like in my partner? No. I want a beautiful woman, obviously. Do I want curves? Yes. Do I want, symmetrical figures? Do I want a feminine look? Absolutely. But I don't expect an Instagram model. Just like you don't expect, who's the hottest celebrity? Who do you think's the hottest celebrity? Off the top of your head. Just
off the top of my head. Tom Cruise.
Okay. You don't expect, if we were dating, you wouldn't expect me to look just like Tom Cruise. That's not realistic.
You look a little too tall.
I might be short. You never know.
Oh, honey, if you're 5'4", then...
but you don't expect me to look like Tom Cruise in the face or body or whatever, right? You take it for what it is. Because an average to above average person, or I'm an average to a slightly below average person, depending on who you're asking. So so not only do women have to deal with feeling like they have to wear makeup all the time, feeling like they have to be before they just had to be skinny. That was the expectation. Just get skinny. Now you have to be skinny and have an ass that looks like a basketball, and then, triple C's or double D's or whatever, and then fake lips, and then, again, all the makeup. So, and then a filter to go on top of that, and then Photoshop sometimes, and always be, posed. So I forgot where I'm going with that, but the expectations of women and even men, but more so women in the beauty standard is very detrimental. So if you have any thoughts, please expand, because I'm rambling.
Well, I think with that too, we just need to, it's the 21st century. We're not all going to look like what we do with our pictures. I think that just needs to be a realistic expectation, because in reality, I don't have gold eyelash. I don't have gold eyelids. My eyelashes are not super thick and not super long, and my lips are not brown all the time. And with that being said, you get called a catfish when you show up and you've had a long day and your hair's in a bun and you don't have all that. It's like, oh, you're a catfish? No. I'm sorry, but we just have to, it just goes back to, we just have to accept we're not all going to look like our pictures sometimes. It's going to look a little different.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about if it's drastic, then I feel like there's a reason to be upset, but there needs to be the expectation.
If you're playing in Photoshop, that's different.
Exactly.
And even some of those filters too are pretty deceptive. Like
they're so good. They're so good.
You don't even have to have makeup on. You can throw one of those filters on.
Oh, hell yeah. I hate to say that, but yes. We've all done it. We've all done it. We've all been there.
I'm going to ask you this. So you've just been, it sounds like you've been back on the dating apps for a couple months now.
A few days, yeah.
Oh, a few days. Okay. Yeah. That's a good then. In a few days, how many matches do you think you have?
A lot.
Just to rant, like 100, 200, 400?
About 100.
Okay, so in 3 days, you have 100 matches. About that, yeah. That's a lot of matches.
Yes.
Talked to a girl on Tuesday who has 8,000 matches. But she, obviously been on there longer than 3 days. So women have so many options on let's say you wanted to go have sex with 100 men in the next 100 days. You could do it.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not saying you want to. But that being said, I'm just proving a point of your availability on the sexual marketplace and your accessibility to it. I'm sorry, is what I should have said. If you could trade access to every Chad, every like hot guy in your phone, and having 40 DMs, having 30 unread messages and 100 different matches, would you trade that for a more 1990s approach where you get approached 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week by men in person, but you don't get DMs from Chad and Michael, and would you trade that?
Absolutely.
So you would trade 300 options in 3 days versus 7 options, 8 options in person. Okay, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, because I know. Well, okay. Well, go back to when we went way back to the beginning of this conversation. If you really think about it, back in the day, women initiated more of the interaction with that than men, because all the time it only took like a glance to look at that man's way to kind of give the idea like, hey, come talk to me.
Now guys don't know what that means.
Exactly. Or for instance, you drop your handkerchief in front of a man. He picks it up.
I learned that the other day.
After you. Yeah, he picks it up and he goes after you. That starts a conversation right there. I mean, women back in the day instigated it more than what a man did.
Yeah, I forgot what video it was. I saw that the other day, and it was an older woman talking about it, and she was like putting everybody on game. It was pretty funny to watch. She was
Well,
like,
also,
"You young
too,
bloods
this is-
don't know."
No, yeah, these young bloods don't know. But I also too think this day and age, we like to romanticize what a relationship should look like.
Yeah.
Like it should always be cute fall pictures, matching Christmas pajamas, and all that stuff. No, I find it, this is going to sound so weird. I find it sexy when a man comes up well, okay, let me back up a little bit. I find it sexy when I ask the question if I'm seriously interested in a guy, what kind of fighter are you in a fight? Meaning we're fighting. Are you going to be the one that throws everything in my face? Or are you going to be the one that says, sit your ass down, we're going to talk about this? I think that's sexy right there. I want to know what kind of fighter you are. I want to know all your negatives.
But if you ask him, like, I know what you're saying, but if you go out and just ask him outright, he's going to probably give you the answer you want to hear. And I don't know.
It goes to when, if someone asks you the question, what are you looking for? You just don't answer that question. You do not go into detail. Mm-hmm. That's where he can play that game and shoot a bunch of happy horse shit up your ass.
So do you start arguments just to find out?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to purposely sit there and be like, oh, who's Brittany?
Trying to find out how toxic you were.
I might, listen, I know I keep going back and saying my age, but I'm old.
You're not old. You're 3 years older than me.
What are you, 20?
25.
25? Oh, that's so cute. I'm just kidding. No, I'm in the age where if I come home and it's a fucking headache every time talking to you, it's not worth it.
It's over.
My peace is more important than anything else. Because again, I will say this, I'm lazy. If you're talking to another girl, you're going to talk to another girl. I'm not going to go in your phone and look around because that's not going to stop you from doing it.
Yeah. You don't go through someone's phone. There's nothing but hurt feelings there. Exactly.
So I don't do that. And if I'm not going to go out and spy on you, I'm not going to do any of that. If you want to be in a relationship with me, we're going to do grown folk shit. So
okay. I'm going to switch to a couple shallow questions real quick, just because we have to. Okay. Do you have a certain standard of income that your partner has to make?
No.
Really?
Yeah. My standard is simply this. I don't have the most glamorous job in the world, but I do require my partner to have a job.
That's some high standards there.
If it's flipping burgers at McDonald's, it's a job. If it's laying down pipelines, it's a job. If you are waste management, it's a job.
Okay.
I don't care what you do. If you have a job, I respect it. Now, if you're out selling weed and doing some side hustles like that,
it's a job.
No, that's a felony.
Not in Oklahoma.
It's over a certain amount in Texas. It's a felony, especially if you have a gun next to it.
No, I can respect that, but here's the thing is, because I can only look at it from my perspective. If I was a woman or I was dating, wanting somebody, I was wanting to date somebody who was going to lead, I wouldn't want to, just like I wouldn't invest in a shitty company. I wouldn't invest in a shitty stock. I wouldn't invest in somebody in a stock or a company that I thought that wasn't going to grow. So I do envy the fact that, I don't envy the options and the choice that women have when it comes to that, because if you ask somebody those types of questions and try to figure out where they're going in life, you get made out to be a gold digger.
Oh yeah.
But if you don't, if you go to the complete opposite of that and you don't date for, money at all or potential at all, I'm not going to say money, but potential at all, then you might end up stuck in the gutter somewhere the rest of your life. And I don't think that's not a fun place that anyone wants to be. I'm not using that to disparage an average lifestyle. An average lifestyle is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about living complete paycheck to paycheck and bouncing around jobs and like a lot of people do go through. So, but then again, gold diggers are very real. So, it's kind of one of those, what's the term for it? Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
I get it.
It's late. Yeah. Catch 22.
You said you had another guess 22. You said you had another shallow question. What's the other ones?
Do you have a minimum height requirement? Wait, first, how tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
Okay.
Well, the only reason I say 5'7", you're going to laugh. I'm literally 5'6.5". So I haven't lost that half and I haven't gained that half. So I just say 5'7".
Okay, my mom says she's 5'7". She's about 5'5" now. She's just under 5'6", but she was 5'7" her whole life, and that she shrunk a little bit, so she still swears she's 5'7". I'm like, Mom, I'm like 6 inches taller than you, and I'm not 6 foot. So I'm like 5'10.5", 5'11" on a great day, and I'm like 5-6 inches taller than her.
So no, I don't care about height. I mostly have dated short men because for a woman, I'm tall. Considering.
Yeah, you're tall, tallish. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. I mean, you're 5'5". Let's go. I'll wear a sundress. Let's have a good time.
How would you date a guy that you were stronger than?
Stronger personality wise?
Physically.
Yeah.
That's surprising. Even more so than the height.
Why is that?
I don't know. Especially with you wanting a more traditionally masculine man and or just a more traditional relationship. I think the whole protector and provider, more so the protector, is kind of why it surprises me. Because if you're dating a guy that's theoretically shorter and weaker than you, then you would be the protector. Which I'm not saying there's, if that's how you want to live your life, great. I just, from the answers you gave me earlier, it kind of surprised me.
Fair enough. So let me ask you all those same questions.
Okay.
Do you care about that as a man's perspective? Like, do you care that a woman might make more money than you? Do you find that intimidating in any way, shape, or form? No.
No. Now, if she's throwing it in my face, that's different. But that's just a larger problem with her as a whole if she's willing to do that, because I know my ambition and I know my work ethic, and so I'm not insecure about that. And for one, I make good money, but two, I wouldn't be insecure by that because I know what I want out of life. So let's say she made double what I make right now. I know that I still, I know how hard I work, so I wouldn't be insecure by that. Now, the height, I don't give a shit. I'll climb a tree.
Okay.
And then I know this is the big one for the guys get called pigs. Weight. I don't care about weight, but shape and health are important to me. Like there's women that are, 6 foot that are, a little bigger, curvier, athletic, and have dense muscles, probably, dense bones that might weigh 220, 230, but still look good. I mean, are they optimally healthy? Probably not, but I'm not optimally healthy right now. So as long as you're pretty to me, you're kind, you have feminine figure, you don't have to be a stick, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. So let me kind of ask you a question, because every time this question got anytime I asked this question and I answered very honestly, it always came off as shallow. Do you think looks matter?
Yes. In a relationship,
Okay.
yes.
Do you think do you answer yes because that's the first thing you see about a person?
Well, it quite literally is the first thing you see. But over
And that's
time,
what
is it the most...
and that's what initiates more of a conversation per se. Would you say
Yeah.
the more attractive you are, the better chance?
So I'd put it this way. If I have a woman who I think is a 9 over here, again, I'm talking very shallowly here. If I have a woman that I think is a 9 at, 30 yards this way on the other side of the mall, and then I have a woman who I think is a 5 or a 6, I'll just use a 6, who I think is a 6 over here, 30 yards that way on the side of the mall, and I've decided I'm going to approach one of them. I'm going to try with this one. But if I'm sitting here and we're all at a bar and one's right here, we're all having a conversation, and then this one is a floozy and an airhead and has no life experience and is delusional, and this one I'm having a great conversation with. She's got a sense of humor. She's funny, and all this, and I'm gonna talk to this one. I'm gonna be more interested in this one because I do find her attractive, and then she may not be as symmetrically pretty or whatever you want to call it on that aspect, but there's a much more attractive features to her. It's just like, I'm assuming that you would probably say the same thing.
As long as they didn't spill a beer on me.
Didn't spill a beer?
Because that actually has happened before.
Was it an accident?
I don't know what it was, but so long story short, like I got stood up on a date, right? And the two guys next to me were buying me drinks back and forth. So they left and another guy comes in and buys me a drink. So while he's trying to buy me a drink, he spills his beer on top of me. So so I had to go in the bathroom, clean up, and I have to come back and, he's like, oh, all shy about it when he turned out to be a really decent human being. But I don't appreciate
started off on a very bad foot.
Yeah, it's like I don't appreciate trying to drive home and I smell like a Busch Light now.
Okay. Now the big question.
Dun dun dun.
It's actually not the big question, but it's a big question. How important to you in a relationship is sex? Overall?
8.
An 8? Okay.
So I'll be really honest. So like I have a very high sex drive to begin with. And I associate, this is probably one of my biggest problems, and I do acknowledge it and I do try my best to work it out. I associate a lot of affection with sex. So if they're not giving, like I'm trying to make the move and they're just like, no, and they're just kind of pushing me away, I'm going to ask the question, something's wrong. What's going on? Is it me? Or like, I'm going to start asking the big questions.
Now, does that trigger in your mind after one time? Or is it like,
yes.
Okay, even once?
Yes. Like I said, I recognize this and I know this is a problem.
The man can't sleep with you 2 weeks in a row and then work 12-hour shifts for 3 weeks. And then, one night he's not in the mood and then you're all of a sudden something's wrong.
Okay. If you put it like that, then I understand at that point. But I'm talking about like, we both had a long week and we both just need to unwind. Like, let's put on some like, some Luke Bryan and pour a glass of whiskey and let's just.
Luke Bryan?
Okay, Morgan Wallen. We'll go basic as fuck here.
You think Morgan Wallen's more basic than Luke Bryan?
Who would you say is more basic?
I think Luke Bryan's about as basic as it gets.
Well, the only reason I'm saying
Old
Morgan
Luke Bryan,
Wallen,
no, but since skinny jean wearing Luke Bryan, yes. Like since 2015, 16, it's pretty bad. It's a bunch of pandering. But anyways, that's a different story. Continue.
What I'm saying is, like, we both had a long week. We're going to put on some music. Let's drink some whiskey. We're on the balcony. No one's there. And you say no. Then it's going to be like.
On the balcony. Okay.
Why not?
I'm not judging. Go ahead. I'm talking out loud. I'm thinking out loud.
And let me make it more clear. No one's around. No one's
you don't
there.
Know that.
Well, they'll have a show then. We'll make sure there's some popcorn outside ready for them to watch. Put
the spotlight on you.
Yes, in that instance, and yes, I can understand why he's saying no. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. Okay, no, I get your point. I'm just giving you a hard time deliberately.
No, I get it.
So do you like to initiate, or do you like to be the one, or like, do you like your partner to initiate, or does it matter? Both. Is it back and forth, or
both?
Well, okay, good.
Because there's some, personality wise, I'm very aggressive. I don't mind, like, if there's a confrontation, let's fucking go. Let's talk. If you're really that hyped up about it and you're talking to a bunch of other people of why you're upset with me, let's fucking talk about it. Let's do it. So in that aspect, I have a very aggressive personality. So when it comes to something like that, it would be something that I would like for them to initiate a little more, just so I can have that piece of, like, I'm not worried about anything, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely get that. I like when my partner initiates it sometimes, because like I said, any person likes to feel wanted. So when exactly. If I feel like I'm initiating it every single time, then it feels like I don't know if you're doing it just to do it, or, if you actually want to. And again, that's part of overthinking it, but also it becomes a little bit of a burden when I feel like I might be burdening you by initiating it. So if you're initiating it, 2 out of every 10 times, it's like, okay, I know that we're both still in this. This isn't just me, keep initiating it. Because again, we talked about earlier, I don't want to be the creep. Obviously we're in a relationship, that shouldn't be my thought, but I don't want to be the one that's
on a balcony.
Yeah, creep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So sex is an 8 out of 10 for you.
Yes. What about a man's perspective? How important is that?
It's changed for me as I've gotten a little older. I'd say actual sex is a 6. But the
So this is actually a good conversation, a good topic. Let's get into it. Do you think there's a difference between sex and that intimacy?
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest difference?
I think they do run together, but there's some separation as well. I can't speak for every guy, obviously, but for me personally, there's obviously I could go have sex with a woman that I don't have any intimacy with, and it'd be strictly physical, just like I'm sure you could. But for me, when I actually feel comfortable around somebody, the intimacy adds a whole nother layer to it that I enjoy, and a whole nother care that I want to care for the partner. Plus, I am a very giving person. Like, I enjoy giving to my partner in that way, and making sure that not just by the outcome. Obviously, that's very important. But now that that used to be the way I was, I looked at it almost competitively, and I've had to draw back from that. But the intimacy, like just knowing that, living in the moment now and understanding that my partner is enjoying it, that is a part of it to me. And it's not just the in and out. It's not just that was a terrible, childish example, but I went
it's true though. That's what
yeah, it's not just the fact that we're getting naked like that. It's the intimacy I crave. So yes, there's a difference, but it's also the same.
Would
That
you
makes
think?
sense.
Would you say like the aftermath of what happens in both is a huge difference as well?
I would say that the before and after is just as important.
Okay.
I would say the lead up is just as fun. Obviously, that tension, if you can build that up. And I would say the after is, as long as you're with somebody that you can trust and be vulnerable with, is just as important and just as fun. It's obviously fun. It's great in a different way, but it's just as great in my opinion. How about you?
Makes sense. Do I think there's a difference?
Well, obviously there's a difference, but do you think it's as important, more important, less important?
I think the aftermath is what's important for both of those. I feel like that can determine a lot. So you can have like the most intimate moment with this person during that, but if they just hop out of bed and just get dressed and leave, it's like, okay, well, what I was thinking is not there. But you're staying there, that pillow talk, and if something's on your mind, that's a good moment to talk about it. It's that intimate that it's open.
You know how I can always tell that moment's going to be there after? It never fails, for me at least. The eye contact during. If there's no eye contact, then there's not going to be that moment after. But if I'm comfortable making that eye contact and I feel that connection, then there's usually something thereafter. Maybe we're not having fantastic conversation, but at least it's hard to explain. And I don't like using the word energy, but I guess you could say the energy between the two of you, the aura between the two of you. And a side note, don't think I didn't notice your Casa de Azul in the back.
My what?
Your tequila.
Oh, my tequila.
That's Casa de Azul.
I didn't know okay, so fun fact, I collect bottles. So like that was at my job one day and it was empty. The bell rings and I never knew that. Yeah, I was about to say
there's a bell on the top.
So I originally took it home because of that. I thought it was
the past
so
2 years.
cool.
The owner of my dealership's taken us to Cabo, a few of us to Cabo, and we drank that for 4 days straight. We had about 20 of those bottles, and I'm not a tequila guy at all. There was like 5 of us there, and we went through 20 of those bottles and so much alcohol that I retired. I'm not a drinker either, so. But it was a fun time. Yeah, I just noticed that like 4 minutes ago, and I was like, I have to point that out.
Yeah, I found another bottle that I just thought was a pretty color. I think it's like a gin. It had a whale on it, so I associated with like, okay, I saw humpback whales in Alaska, so it's like, I'm going to bring this bottle home too.
Do you have any questions for me? I know I've been asking a lot of the questions. Do you have any questions or that you want answered from a male's perspective?
No, I think just by everything like we've been bouncing off, I think a lot of it's been asked and a lot has been answered.
Oh, there's one question I didn't ask. I'm not gonna ask that one. I'll ask another one.
Just ask it.
No, because I don't think it's as important. I think guys focus way too much on it, and so I don't think I need to give it any more daylight, because then people think that that's all that matters, and they only want to focus on that. So I'm gonna ask another one.
Okay.
What I think you know what I was gonna say, but how important? Like, I know you said the guy doesn't have to make more money than you or make a bunch of money. What's your take on splitting bills 50-50?
I'll do it half the time. I'll split the bill because I don't want to. I will either split the bill or I will pay for it myself, because I don't want to walk away from that date or that hangout.
I'm not talking about a date. I'm talking about bills. Like, you're together, you're living together.
Oh, then if Are we married? In this scenario, no? Then it's 50-50 down the middle. Unless we're married, it's no.
If you're married, then it's a no.
If we're married, it's, you're agreeing that it's ours. Yeah. We have a life together. It's no longer yours, mine's, and whatnot. We're together. We're building a nest, and we're fully in or not. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. Just to go on off topic about that. So I know a lot of people who, before they get married, they want to sign a prenup. I won't do it. Not because I'm a gold digger and I bring that. Not because I'm a gold digger, but I believe in what a marriage is. It's our life. And by having that is taking away, like, you can always rub it in my face, like, oh, that's mine. That's mine. I don't want that. We're going into this building our nest together. So if you don't have that mindset, like, we're going to build our nest, we're going to provide a house, it's going to be all in, it's going to be ours, then it's not worth it.
So going into it, if neither one of you really have anything, there's no reason for a prenup, because whatever you build, I mean, you should, whatever you build together. Again, I don't always think should be 50-50. Most of the time, by the time the lawyers are done with it, it's usually the guy loses about 70% if he's the one who has majority of, like, the business or whatever. But if you end up marrying somebody who has a successful business and, say, has millions of dollars in the bank account and has a multi-million-dollar business, if I was him, I'm getting a prenup. There's no way around it. I can understand it, but that doesn't mean that I don't love you. That just means that the person that you divorce isn't always the person you marry.
I understand that, but I also just feel like it's a contract. And I can understand, like, if you're okay with having, like, your whole relationship based on a contract, I mean, that's your business, that's your life.
But that's what marriage is. A marriage is an actual contract within the government.
Just by a piece of paper.
But as soon as you get divorced, you have to split your assets, and most of the time you lose custody of your children as a man. So there's a lot of things that don't go your way if you have 2 or 3 children. I don't know the exact statistics, but I know majority of women do get custody. And, that's I'm not saying, all men or all women do or don't deserve custody. That it's a case-by-case basis, obviously. But in general, I would say a far majority of men lose custody and don't get access to their children as much as they should. And on top of that, secondarily, they lose a lot of their assets, a lot of their wealth to somebody who might not have ever worked. Again, it could be an extreme example, but yeah.
I think just for me, it just goes back to, as again, I'm a lazy person. I'm not going to fight this out. I'm not going to do it. I see how much effort and how exhausting it could be. So to me, if we're going to be reasonable humans about it, like, if you want the house, okay, take the house, but the kids are going to live with me in this house that we have. You want the convertible, take the convertible. That's not realistic for me and the kids. It's just, I personally don't have that kind of energy. Yeah. And I feel like it's better spent elsewhere.
But would you agree that you're probably in the minority of that? You may not think that you are. And let's say that, you hopefully you never do, but let's say you do get a divorce one day and you do truly mean that, and you say that, and you don't care about, the money. You're not trying to drain him financially. You're not trying to be spiteful. Excuse me. My throat's getting dry. You're not trying to, be spiteful to him, that you would be in a minority in a situation like that.
I think I'm a rare situation for saying that. Because, there's a reason for a divorce. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's a divorce.
Yes.
Bottom line, there's a reason. It could be one partner was cheating and they left you. If that's the case, I mean, what's the point of being a headache? Just to make it's not going to make you feel any better.
Yeah, no.
So, I mean,
I think there's definitely cases where marriage definitely is not going to hurt as much if things do go south. Like if you get married young, I don't think it's as big of a deal. If you're going to commit to somebody long term and you're going to put in the work and the effort, it's not going to matter as much if you get married young when you both don't have two pennies to rub together. But say you're a professional athlete or that's completely extreme circumstance. But let's say you're fairly successful and you're 35 years old. Even as a woman, you wouldn't want just some freeloader guy coming in. Excuse me, I need some water real quick. I'll be right back. Yeah, you as a woman, if you were financially successful and had millions of dollars in the bank, you wouldn't want somebody to just come in out of nowhere and be able to take half of that. But again,
at that point
extreme examples.
At that point too, it goes back to what I said earlier. I would want someone who's at that level too.
Hypergamy. Women want to date at or up, not below, and a bunch of different aspects. But for me, I don't think. Am I completely against marriage? No. Do I think that it's always evil? No. Obviously, it works out, but I just don't like when the government can get a say-so in you and I, if we love each other, when they can say what we're doing. So if you're going to love somebody, what's I guess the water didn't help. But if we're going to love each other, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. So what does a piece of paper matter? What does that contract matter?
It's just more of a symbol than anything.
But okay, well, let's put on the rings then and say we're married.
But that's not the same. Okay, for instance, let's say, okay, we
can have a ceremony. But as soon as you bring the government in with that piece of paper, then they can start telling you what the hell to do.
But let's say, for instance, we're married, we're living our life. Out of nowhere, you just fucking die.
You can still write in your will and testament.
But listen, as your wife, I'm able to have that and provide for the kids. As a domestic partner, I'm not going to have that. That's going to be a long, drawn-out fight. And if my in-laws do not like me, they can hold that shit. Just because they don't like me and despite me. Even though I am the mother of your kids as well.
But if you're that serious, then you can work that out with your will and set it up early. I mean...
But that can be fought hard, too.
Not if it...
Depending on who holds it, that can be fought. It's more of that security blanket for it as well. Like, obviously we both have jobs and, to be able to receive whatever that comes out of it, you're going to have to be married. Just because we're in a domestic partnership for 10 plus years, that does not give the same security.
I guess one of my points as far as, and maybe I'm not making myself super clear because I'm tired and we probably need to wrap this up here pretty soon. And you're more than welcome to come back anytime. But for me, I'm not going to drop names, but I've seen one of the nicest women that I've ever met in my life be married like 4 or 5 times. And like genuinely one of the nicest women I've ever met in my life, never taken a dime in a divorce. So she's never married for the money. And she's married some men who've made some good money, never taken a dime in the divorce. So if she can get divorced multiple times, what's to say that the woman that I might marry, or the woman I would marry, that I might not end up getting a divorce from her? So you can't act like it's not a possibility. I mean, I know it's like a professional fighter going, there's no possibility of me losing. Well, yeah, there actually is. You might get knocked the fuck out. So it can happen. And especially like if the nicest person I've ever met got divorced that many times, then it can happen to anybody. So that's one thing that's another reason that I look at it that way too.
I think paperwork wise, it makes a lot more sense. That's where I'm just trying to get at. In
some aspect, yes, what you were referring to. But in the other aspect, for like maybe for a woman, it makes complete sense to, as a woman, it makes complete sense to get married, especially if you want a more traditional relationship, because that's your security blanket. But as a man, especially nowadays with the divorce rate being 70%, you're telling me if you told me, I mean, if you told me go put $100,000 in Tesla, there's a 70% chance that it's going to go to zero and you're going to lose $60,000 of that, $70,000. I'd say you're full of shit.
I would say invest in Tesla because they're in Austin and they're causing a big headache being here.
But my point is you told me there's 70% chance that you're going to lose 70% of your money and you're going to lose a lot of your time. You're going to lose, equity in your business. You're going to lose, 70% chance whatever the case may be. I'm probably not going to invest in that stock. I'm not going to invest in that business. So, and what's more valuable than money is time. So if you invest all this time with somebody and then on top of that, you lose access to your children, not all the time, but sometimes they do lose access to their children just because the mother wants to be spiteful. And then, on top of that, as a third thing, you lose all that money. That, because you got the government involved, that's where, you look at it and it's like, man, is that really worth the 30% chance? I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm not even flipping a coin. I'm not flipping a coin. There's a 70% chance that it's not going to fail or it's not going to work. My voice is giving out, so I'm sorry. We're going to have to finish this up another time. Fine. We've been going 2 hours.
Oh, wow. It's been a minute. Yeah.
It's 11:20 and I keep coughing into the mic and that's probably not good for TV.
Probably not.
Do you have any closing statements for me? Any questions? Dude? No?
Nope. I think we covered a lot in just 2 hours.
We did.
But it's been fun to have this conversation. It's really nice to have an open conversation and not like it gets super, super,
And that's why I wanted to do it, is because most of what you see now is just people arguing and insulting each other and having very shallow conversations. And there's not a lot, I'm sure there is people doing this, but there's not a lot of people that are having the conversations that I want to have. And, it's okay to have discourse and disagree and argue back and forth, but, actually go deeper into the conversation and not just call women hoes and gold diggers and guys, pigs and this and that.
Well, I was really worried about like when you first approached the idea, it's like, I don't think I'm open to this. I don't want to go back and forth. I don't want to be called names. I don't want to do any of that. But once you said like, okay, it's just going to be just a normal conversation. It's like, okay, I mean, why not?
I'm sure there was probably still reservations too, right? Even after I said that.
Like just in case I came ready into this conversation. Like if I need to, I'm ready to go to a point.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it's definitely okay to argue your point and go back and forth, but the malicious hate and, I think it's just a lot of it comes because people don't have real world experience or a ton of real world experience, or they're just kind of delusional and they just repeat the same things over and over again, whether it be on the women's side or the men's side or whatever. They just have the same few arguments over and over again, and they cling to some statistics without actually, delving into where the statistics comes from. And I'm a statistics guy. I really am. I love Google Sheets. I love spreadsheets. I love, I'm trying to learn how to code too. I love stuff like that. But you have to, that's the thing with statistics, is you have to accommodate and take a look at where those statistics are coming from and what makes them up. Because a lot of times they just look at statistics and then try to use that as their golden pony. And then they can't tell you where those statistics come from or, you know, the sample that they came from. So I do want to, this was great. I've had 3 great conversations already this week, and I'm very glad I had this idea. And I want to do this because I think men need it. I think women need it. And I think that needs to be more open conversation, because I think that's part of the problem is we're not communicating anymore. And we're not communicating what our wants and needs are. And so no one really knows. And so we're guessing, and we're guessing very horribly wrong.
We all want our partners to be mind readers, which is, this is not going to happen.
Never.
We need to all accept the fact, like, you, relationship wise, my partner's not going to be a mind reader. I need to tell him what I want. And either he's going to be accepting and receiving of that, or he's just going to be like, you're fucking stupid, move on.
And it just goes to show, if I've never had a conversation with you before today, and we're able to talk for 2 hours with no awkward moments, be honest with each other, be open, and we're doing a Zoom call from a different state, we can, and it's 11:30 at night, we can be able to go on a date and build chemistry and communicate effectively and openly with each other.
Exactly.
It's possible.
Absolutely. And everyone just needs to, with that kind of situation, everyone just needs to walk in open-minded. Mm-hmm.
And put your damn ego aside. All right, I'm going to end it on that. I need to get some sleep. I've got to get back up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So
if I don't want to feel like this, then tell me why I do the same shit over and over again. It's starting to drive me crazy. Like, just get out and face it. Fix your mess, you made it.